Yeah, the perfect start. Jesper drinking some water so he can talk, so he can talk for an hour.
Exactly. Taking a deep breath.
Yeah, just preparing. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Playmaker TV. This is a very interesting episode. We are going to talk to Jesper, who is a data analyst at Playmaker, and I'm Mia. Because we're in an exciting time at the moment because it's transfer days, you could say, and this episode will be about players who plays really well at the moment, but also some youngsters that people should keep an eye on. Probably we're going to mention a few players who are not youngsters as well, that people aren't very aware of. But today it's, Twitter obviously is like boiling with transfer news. And I mean, we have a Swedish head coach in Arsenal who is sort of, he just throw things around for the Arsenal fans. Jordan Nobbs has left for Aston Villa today. What did you see that?
Yeah, Patrik Winqvist recruitment or?
No. Jordan Nobbs has just. She's been playing for.
But I was thinking about Arsenal's replacement, like for the. Patrik Winqvist joining the Arsenal stab. But
exactly.
I saw it. Interesting recruitment. See how it will go in Aston Villa for him, and also to see another Swede in Arsenal.
Obviously, and also the fact is that I was just thinking about it today. I actually tweeted that too. That there's a growing pool of great players in the women's game, and it's still like the top teams. They are few in the leagues, and not every player can play in the top teams because then they won't get any playing time.
Exactly.
And it's a World Cup year. Now we can say that because it's 2023. Happy New Year. But let's dive deep into it. And we're going to talk about the big five. Let's call them that. The leagues that have paused for Christmas and New Year's. And we'll get going again, actually, this weekend with Liga F in Spain.
Exactly. So we'll dig straight into it.
Do you still have that paper like nearby because it's scratching the sound?
No, I don't. I'm not touching the paper. Is it my microphone maybe?
Yeah, it could be actually. Something is like. I'm the sound police, as a podcaster, you pay attention.
Yeah, that's still.
No, much better. No, much better.
Okay, so let me know if it comes back.
Yeah.
But if you watched episode 2, so a pretty long while back now, I think we were like end of September, so maybe beginning of October. I think there had been like 4 games in these leagues by then, and we looked at Aslani's player report, and we took a look at some interesting players. I had 11 of the players that have started the league's best just after a few games. So this will be a little bit like that episode, but I think even more data now since we played half the season. The players have played maybe around 10 games plus minus. So we have a lot more of data to dig into. So we will go through some of the top performing players in different positions, and also take a look at the interesting young players around in these leagues and different teams.
And this is the gold mine for you, because you just said something there about we have more data to dig into now when the leagues have been played for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And this, you showed me this slide yesterday, and I was like, okay, where is Christiane Endler? So we
Yeah,
just have
exactly.
we have to start with that because this is like big news.
Yeah,
Why isn't she there?
yeah, that's a good question. Or she's just outside of this list, and I digged into her numbers a bit, and I don't want to be like too harsh on her not being, but it says something about the initial season. I think she had an average of around 1.8 saves per game, which you see in the first column here, and she had around 0.75 conceded goals per game. So she had like an average of like every second shot she has to collect in the net behind her, and that's doesn't give you a very good saving percentage. And when we looked at the XG, like for the goalkeeper, how much they should have saved, considering the XG against them, she should have done better. Now this is to the start of the season. It's not the Champions League games and so on, so we shouldn't be too hard on her. But if we could at least say that she could have had a better start of the season for sure.
Yeah, I think we could say that Lyon as a whole could have had a better start of the season. Either, I mean, they are second in the league, so let's not jump into any conclusion about them being a bad team. But I get what you mean. But also, the thing is with the data and goalkeepers, it's kind of a, you know, you could question a lot of it, like from the fact that, okay, so if Sarah Bohadi is playing for PSG, who rarely gets probably a shot against her as one of the bottom teams, what does this number mean?
Yeah, and that's one thing that is very important to keep in mind, as you mentioned, because the goalkeeper is like I mean, for other players as well, they could have different many actions, but usually like the players in the team have, it's related, but a good goalkeeper usually have less, or a goalkeeper in a good team usually have less saves than a goalkeeper playing in a team in the bottom table, which says itself. But then it's hard to evaluate when you have few actions to evaluate on. For example, in a Champions League tournament, the team reaching the final, if they've been dominant in every game, it could have been like the goalkeeper had one save on average in each game all the way to the final, and that's not much to evaluate on. So I think it's, when you're evaluating goalkeepers for recruitment, it's very important to evaluate them in different environments. Like it could be, for example, for Zinsberger in Arsenal, for example, she is a goalkeeper in Arsenal, which is a very good team, but then she plays for Austria that are maybe pretty dominant in the qualifier. But if you look at the Euros, they're not one of the favorites. So then you get to see her in teams playing, having a different amount of the ball, and she's having different amount of shots against her. So that's a good example. And for some goalkeepers, it's the same in both environments, but the more saves you have, the more data you have, the better. So very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and also we must mention that this is just about saves, conceded goals, and the fact is that goalkeepers are so much more these days. Just to mention to those who looks at this now, that this is just saving, goalkeeping.
This is just shot stopping, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's more into the position, of course. But one thing, if you look at the columns here, we have saves per 90, which is how many saves they make per every 90 minutes. You have conceded goals per 90. Usually the conceded goals per 90 should be way lower than the saves per 90. That's good. And then you have mean XGA, and that's mean XG against. So it's more of what's the XG for the shooter when they take the finish, considering the goalkeeper. So it says something about, does the defense allow the opponent team to shoot very close to the goal, or is she most saving goals from maybe outside the box or further out? So you can see for Sarah Bohadi here that 0.05, that's if you take straight out from the goal, that's pretty far out. So it's almost like the penalty line or something like that in average. So like she doesn't.
She has a good defense.
She has a good defense.
You could
exactly.
say that, yeah.
And that was a very easy explanation. Like it's not only the position into the XG model, but you get a sense. And then saving percentage, that's classic that we work with in many sports, and it's just like how many saves have you done divided by saves plus conceded goals. So it's really the first column divided by the first plus the second.
Yes.
And then saved, I see here that the percentage has been missing when I added this picture, but this is saved XG percent. So then we look at what the XG is for the goalkeeper, depending on where the finisher takes the shot. So where do they place it? How far out are they shooting from? So if you're shooting from a very close area and put it in a very good position, then it's very hard for the goalkeeper to save it. So if they would save that ball, they would be allowed a very high shot stopping or post shot XG number. But if they're shooting from out of a distance and in the middle of the goal, the value is not that high because you should save that. And then you take the amount of saved XG and divide it by the saved plus the conceded XG. So that's really, and those numbers are, you could see a relationship between the classic save percentage, but they're usually less. So if you can see for Body, she has 74 in save percentage and she has 72 in saved XG percentage. So usually the number is lower, but it's not always related. Sometimes a goalkeeper can have a way higher save percentage than saved XG percentage, and then maybe it's because they have saved a lot of long shots, but when they've been put into more dangerous situations, when the opponent has had a good chance to score, they don't save. They don't do these super saves, so to say.
Yeah, and this is this is a gold mine for every scout out there to just watch numbers from goalkeepers in the different leagues. But obviously there's no surprise that Sarah Bouhade is the number one here.
No.
But I'm still surprised about Christian Endler. but also let's just keep in mind that this is just about shot stopping.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's more room for randomness, if we can say so, if you do a low amount of saves per game, because if you make a total of 5, if you have a total of 5 shots against you and you save one of those, you have a saving percentage of 0.2, but if you manage to save 2, you have a saving percentage of 0.4, whereas if you have 23 shots against you, 1 shot doesn't make the same difference. And if we look at the saved XG percent, it's not that easy, but it's a bit similar. So if you have a few shots against you and then you have one action that was pretty bad, it penalizes your score more if you're a goalkeeper in Paris Saint-Germain, Lyon, Barcelona, etc.
Yeah, obviously. Well, that's France.
Yes, and you talked about Bouhade. I just want to mention, I think it's interesting with Emily Alvarado in Reims, since she's from Mexico, and I think she came to Reims ahead of last season, and she's only 24, so it's not that old for a goalkeeper. And I think also it's cool that she went from TCU Horned Frogs, Texas Christian University in Texas, and went immediately to the top flight in France, and now she's the first goalkeeper and she's doing very well. So I think it's cool. And I don't know, when it comes names that is not from Europe or the US or Brazil, I think it's really interesting to see these Mexican girls coming over, or any girls from Africa and so on. So very, very interesting.
Yeah,
so
let's see where
remember her.
Yeah, let's see where she plays in 2 years.
Yes. If you go to Germany, we have the young under 19 talent Maria Louise Gross. She's I think she's born in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. So she's very young. She's probably a future top generation goalkeeper. And she's doing very well for Bayern München. But if you can see here as well, she has 1.4 saves per average per game, which is very low. And the same with Merle Froms in Wolfsburg, 1.37. So they don't have that many actions. What you could see here that is maybe a bit interesting is that for Barcelona, you have Paris Saint-Germain, you have a very low number, so they are not allowing shots in their own box that much. Whereas for Wolfsburg, there has been a few more chances inside the penalty area because the number is almost double here on XG. So yeah, that's one thing. So to
but
keep
this
in
is
mind.
also like you could see that Frankfurt, that's like 0.08.
Yeah. So mean XGA is maybe more of a like a defensive measurement for the defensive line, like
Yeah.
where they are allowing shots. But it's very good to have in a table like this to just have it in relation to the other numbers. Yeah. And if you have any comments about this, like hit us up with comments before or after, like during or after the show. If we go to Spain,
I think you have, now, because now we can see it.
okay. Maybe it's a bit of a delay, maybe. When it comes to Spain, I think it's, when you come to Barcelona, you can see Sandra Paños there. She has like 1.12 saves per game in average when she's played. It's
Crazy.
it's not much, and she's conceded. So you can see there that she's almost conceded every second goal, but her mean XGA is way higher than Gemma. So when you see Gemma in the top and Sandra at number 5, I think that Sandra has been like unlucky or whatever, that she has had shots against her that has been way more closer to the goal, which has been hard to save. And since they're not making that many saves, it has penalized her score, while as Gemma hasn't had that like super great chance against her in the same way.
Could be also that Gemma has been playing like the games versus the lower teams than Sandra Paños. I'm not sure, but it could be like that.
Yeah,
So,
it could be like that. If you look
Yeah.
at them like shots against them per game, if you're not looking at saves, Gemma has 1.76 and Sandra Panos has 1.6, so it's almost similar still.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to tell us now, because there are very few goalkeepers here, and 2 are from Barcelona.
Yeah, that's quite easy. We haven't been able to, like, when we are collecting data, we don't have the video on all games in Spain. So like when we're comparing players in Spain, we can't do it on a full data set, which is not optimal, but we are like really working to get hands-on video on all games and be able to collect more data.
Sure.
So hopefully in 2023 that will be the case. We go to England, and I think we can look. We have talked about 1.5 and so on, but if we look at Mackenzie Arnold, like, she's conceding 1 goal per average per game, but she's saving 3.8. So she's busy. She's a busy goalkeeper.
She's a busy goalkeeper. Yes. That's a good way to put it.
And you can also see in the numbers here that the goalkeepers, like the top goalkeepers in general, are more busy. So like there's maybe not a defense in England that is as good as the defenses in. Now I'm making big shots here, so you can take me down after the episode. But maybe no defense in England that is as dominant as the defenses in England or France, England or Spain. Or the teams are like taking out each other more equally. I don't know, but like the goalkeepers are a bit more busy in the top teams here. You can see that Ann-Katrin Berger in Chelsea, she's the one that is getting shots from like the best scenarios. Like she's not having so many shots close to the goal. You can see there's a big difference for Rachel Laws in Liverpool compared to Berger. But Mackenzie Arnold, I think it's just going to be interesting, like, to see her in the World Cup. Hopefully, like since we didn't see her in Euros, she's from Australia. But and then when we look at these numbers in general, I also want to make, like, to me, Manuela Zinsberger is the best goalkeeper in Europe, at least. Like, she was top of this list after the entire season last year. She was really good in the Euros, and she's good now again. So. I really enjoy watching her play, and
it's going to be very interesting to see if this list will stay like this. Speaking of that, when the second half of the season starts now, because obviously there are some recruitments being done at the moment also, because I mean the top teams obviously want to go for for winning the league. But also the fact that the bottom teams would probably want to stay out of the relegation battle.
Exactly. So there will be a lot of changes.
And this is my favorite list of the goalkeepers, obviously because we have a Swede topping it.
Yeah, and she actually has the highest saved XG percentage in all of these leagues. You have to keep in account that she's only played 477 minutes, so that's about half of Zinsberger, for example. So it's like easier to have a good value when you're playing fewer games. The more games you play, the harder it gets. Really,
you have squad rotation here among the goalkeepers, because the first on this list is a Roma keeper, and Roma is top of the league. But number 10, that's also a Roma keeper. So
yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I don't have the numbers in Champions League with me here and during the episode, and it could be since they're playing in the Champions League as well, doing a good job. But like when you just look at the league numbers, I don't see any reason to like bench Emma Lind, really. Like they should just go with her from this. Since it's that big of a difference. Now I'm Swede as well, but there's only the numbers behind that.
We don't care. We just see the number 1.
Yeah. And then we have the old Lyon goalkeeper, Pero Magnin, number 2 in Juventus. And yeah, she has a lot of national games for France as well. So, I mean, she's a good goalkeeper. And
but
I think
this is also, this is very interesting, because I do think that we can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like how they are being ranked here is probably very similar to how the table looks at them.
And when you looked at England, you had West Ham in top, so it doesn't need to be that like that. But here it is.
Exactly. Here it is.
But now we move on. Now we switch to centre backs, and we will go through centre backs in all these 5 leagues to start with. And what I've done here is that I've picked out the 2 players that have been the best so far at these positions according to our index. And since there's a lot of players in the league, it could be a very small difference. And index only says that much. Like if you need to dig closer into the numbers to maybe, especially in recruiting, depending on like which players that is best for your team, of course. And also like since there's only 2 players in every position group that I've taken out, there's a lot of good players that is not here. So if the player is not included in this, it doesn't mean that they've had a bad season or are not one of the best players. They could very well be in 11 for the league so far, or be top 5 in the league. But yeah, I couldn't pick them all if we didn't want a 24-hour episode.
And also we must mention that it's easy to think that the players that we see from this slide, obviously they're playing for the top teams, but across all the 5 leagues, this is not the case. So this is where the interesting stuff comes in. Obviously, it's Wendy Renard and Amanda Ilestedt, 2 very good and experienced center backs, though.
Yeah, and you can see here that they have very similar profiles. Now it's only 12 different stats, but both of them are like we have talked about the player roles, and both of these players have the player role of a leader, like a leading center back, a commanding center back, and they have like these passing or carrying capabilities, but they're also like, especially you see Renard, she's like she's so dominant when it comes to air duels, and you have Amanda Ilestedt with a similar profile. So far this season, she's been a little bit more dominant in tackles, but I think Wendy Renard has been in less duels overall. She's very good in her positioning and so on.
Yeah, exactly, because the tackles, it's always very interesting to like when you talk about tackles as a metric, because you have to consider the fact that it doesn't mean that Wendy Renard is not as good as tackling. It's just that you could be a great tackler and play that way. Like, okay, I'm not in the exact position where I should be, or stuff like that, because I know I can tackle the opponent if necessary. Whilst a player like Wendy Renard, she's probably one of the best in the game to know where to position herself, so she doesn't have to tackle.
Exactly, and like a complete red spider isn't really the best spider in this model for a center back. This is like a very common profile for a dominant center back in a top team. So like she's not used in that way. And also Wendy Renard, if you look at videos or pressing data, she's very good at like controlling her opponent attacker and like leading them into the right areas where they are less dangerous to her team, and the same with Amanda. So like they don't, even though the tackles here is like adjusted for positions, that's what PADJ stands for, they don't get those high numbers. There could be some center backs, but then you in top teams that are higher, but then usually it's that their playing style is more physical and more aggressive. Millie Bright, for example, in Chelsea. But so we will maybe see this when we go into more spiders later on.
And also, aggressive is not necessarily a negative word.
Oh no, no, not at all.
Just wanted to say, but this is very interesting because now I could probably say that not everyone is familiar with this Eintracht Frankfurt center back.
No, exactly. Like Tainara, you've seen in the Champions League, and like both her and the other defenders in Bayern Munich are like top of the league in their positions. So it could have been 2 Bayern Munich, but the second rated is actually Schöke Nisken from Frankfurt. And I think it's really interesting to follow like a player like her when you watch her in video. Like she's only 21, she's playing for Eintracht Frankfurt, where she's been for a while, and she's like you can see her like having a very high number in XD prevented, and that's because like she's very good at stopping the attacks when they come to crucial points for the opponents. Like she's very dominant in that sense, and she's also very dominant in winning the ball high and being like what do you say, like reactive or aggressive in that sense, that like she is very good at standing in the right position, discovering a bad pass and then stealing it.
Exactly.
So I mean,
read the game.
Eintracht Frankfurt is a good team. I think they're third at the moment in Frauen Bundesliga.
Yes,
but it will be interesting. I don't know their contract situation, but I mean this 21-year-old center back, that's definitely a name for a Champions League club in the coming summer. Like so,
I think she will play in the Champions League with Frankfurt next season if they continue their.
Yeah, and then that could very well be so. And if we'll see if it's in the Frankfurt shirt or any other.
But this is a very red spider for a center back, I would say. But the fact is that she doesn't have so much red in the tackles that we could just assume that she's a good, like, she's good at positioning and
exactly.
She reads the game well.
Yeah. And in Tainara, we can just say that she's a very secure passer and also very good in generating value and do these line breaking passes and being a motor in the defense, in like starting the attacks and creating value from behind the lines. So if we move to Spain, we have maybe my favorite center back in the world, Maria Leon.
I think you are not alone in that fact, and she's very red in like the metrics where a center back probably should be very red.
Yeah, and I mean Barcelona is so good. She rarely needs to tackle. She's also good in the metrics that we mentioned before, in controlling your defender without doing a tackle. But you can see here, just as Tainara, that she's top both in pass percentage and in like generating value. And she can do it both through passing, but also like when it comes to gain in carry 90, like, which means that the amount of meters or distance that you move the ball by carries towards the opponent goal. She's also the best center back in the league. So like she's so dominant in being progressive, and like when you look at her position cluster, she's very close to being matched to a central defensive mid, like just because she's acting so offensively.
Play with a high back line. This is also interesting because I do think that we probably are going to do an episode about the Champions League once it's done. So it's very interesting to see their spiders in the Champions League compared to in the league, because you could obviously we know that Barcelona is a very dominating team in the league, and but also it's a fact that when you see her spider, you know that this is Barcelona style of play. You don't have to tackle opponents if the opponents never gets the ball, if you know what I mean. So if you keep the ball like Barcelona likes, then these numbers can also be affected by that.
And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind also, like when it comes to defenders not making tackles, that I think sometimes when you evaluate defenders, you could hear that like, well, this defender, like she's not that good at defense. But one thing, like if you have a defender that can keep the ball within the team and also can generate like value in that sense that it can make the position more dangerous, you don't need to defend. And like to me, like one of the best ways of defending is to own the ball, because the opponent can't score if you have the ball. So if you have defenders that are very safe and confident with the ball, it allows you to rest within possession and to tire out the opponent. So like it's then they don't need to be the best defending center back in the league.
Yeah, because they use possession as a tool to defend.
Exactly.
Not many teams in the women's game do that.
No, and we have Rocio here in Real Madrid, who's also very good Spanish center back. And when we talk, and there will be a pattern here. Spanish center backs is something that we can keep in mind when we move on to England. And maybe the best signing in the summer, Laia Alexandri.
Yeah, probably one of the
best. I said it straight out there, but without any consideration. But
yeah, that's your word. No.
But I mean, she's only 22. They signed her from Atletico Madrid, right? And
and she can play in the central midfield as well. So I do think that it's a good signing.
A little bit of like the Leah Williamson player type, or like that she can be used in both, and that's very valuable to a possession team like Manchester City. And if you look at her spider, she's the best in the league in free metrics there, in expected, in creating value through both carries and passes, and also in moving the ball the longest distance progressively with gain carry, but then winning the ball high up in the pitch and passes in game passes. She's number 2. So like, and her pass percentage is very high. So she's a great player with the ball.
Yeah, and also we must talk about this, because you could also say that looking at spiders could let you see how a team uses players in position. Like we know the fact is that even though Millie Bright goes up the pitch from time to time, she does that because obviously Chelsea is a very dominating team in the WSL as well. But her role might not be that. So if but you know that Laia Alexandre is playing next to a player like Alex Greenwood, who is, I mean, they use both their center backs to take the ball up the pitch very much. And obviously, if you just look at the way Chelsea play, I think many would say that Millie Bright, well, she does take the ball up a lot during a game. But then if you would put Chelsea's other 2 center backs and their spiders next to Millie Bright's, I think you could start to see a pattern in what role they might be having.
Yeah, and I mean, like Emilia Bright is more of the defending or physical center back when it comes to the player role. But I think that something like she's only compared with other center backs in the Women's Super League here in this Spider, and also the center backs that have played around 33% or more of the season. So like it's maybe around 30 center backs that are in this Spider, and she's around 75% in game passes, expected threat passes, expected threat carries. So if you do the math, like she's top 8 in that measure still. So like there's not many center backs in the league that are better, although it can look like a big distance from like Alexandri. But when you start looking more into it, like in the progressive defensive measurement, well, then you have Letizier, you have Magdalena Eriksson, and so on that are ahead of her in that measurement. But there's not that many.
No, and we should also add that Emilia Bright is one of the best center backs in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. She was so dominant in the Euros as well, so it's good center back.
But here we also have much red color.
Mueka Minami. I'm not that good in Japanese, but in Roma, like she's over average in all the stats, or like just that average in cross percentage, and I think that's super impressive. You haven't seen that in any of the other Spiders, so like she's a super good center back. And then we have this Polish center back in Milan in Aslani's team. That I feel nervous to try to pronunciate, but
you don't want to butcher that name, Jesper.
No, I don't want to.
We have respect for the Polish
language. But remember the name. We move on to fullbacks, and we talked about Lyon maybe having like not the best start, so on, but they have a lot of players in this list still, and I think that's just interesting to bring up Janice Cayman, that is ranked as the second best fullback in the French league, like considering she's born in 1988, I think, so she's like gonna be 35 years in 2023, and she has like 130 caps for Belgium or something, so it's like super interesting that she's still doing so well. There's not only players under 25 in this presentation.
Exactly. So, well, it's going to be interesting. She will probably play the Arnold Clark Cup with Belgium against England among 4 teams that will participate in February. So keep an eye out on her in that tournament.
And then we have these.
This is not a surprise.
Not a surprise. Like she's generating a lot of shot assists, like key pass assist, and her technical performance is just great. And she's also very good in winning the balls in high duels. And I mean, young, great. Fullback many years to come, and I think that's a pattern here. There's a lot of players that are best in their leagues, in their positions, that are 23 years old and younger, like 23 to 20, and Salome is 22, I think, right now. So it's very interesting to see like how good this young generation with players born in the late 90s or early 200s.
Here we have an interesting name, though.
Katarina Naschenwang. In Hoffenheim. She's from Austria, playing in their national team, 25, like a lot of the Austrian national team playing in the Frauen Bundesliga. And when we talked about being proactive, she's very good at stealing the ball from the opponent and generating chances through her passes.
A better passer than a carrier, it looked like.
Yeah, exactly. She's not much of a dribbler. She's good at maybe progressing the ball in corridors, but she's not really a dribbler.
Also, this is also interesting because obviously Hoffenheim is struggling a little bit in the Frauen Bundesliga this season also. So it's the fact that if you're a fullback, you can look at this and say, okay, she's not as good at carrying the ball as passing. But the fact is that if you're a lower team, you might not have the role going up the pitch as far
Exactly.
as well.
She
So
doesn't have
yeah,
that much of empty corridors to run in either.
no, they're
Exactly.
crowded.
Yeah.
from
And
other players, so.
yeah, Lynn Wilms, I don't know how much of a presentation she needs, but also a national player for the Netherlands.
But also this is interesting as well, because it looks like carrying is not what she is best at as well.
Could be
So,
no, exactly, and it could be a lot of like team instructions or
yeah,
more
exactly.
into it as well.
We need to mention that, because that's so. But it's interesting because she plays for Wolfsburg, though.
Yeah, and that's a really like good thing to keep in mind when watching it. Is there's a player you're really interested in? Maybe we can do like deeper player report and like analyze that player deeper, because if player's in zero here, I can look at the numbers, but in these visualizations, you can't really say if she's a bad dribbler or she's just not doing it. So
exactly.
Yeah, Spain, Lucy Bronze. I've
what a
spoken
surprise!
about
What
her
a
a lot of times. Olga Carmona, I don't know if I don't think maybe she's a surprise either playing for Real Madrid,
No.
but
Never.
Yeah, also one of these good youngsters. I think she's born in 2000, so she's or think I know she's so like yeah, a lot of these good next generation players coming up.
But you could also see that we have been speaking about Lucy Bronze before, because she was the most offensive fullback in the WSL. We talked about her a little bit when we did the Ona Battier episode.
Yeah.
But you can see here also playing for Barcelona. Obviously, they are a very offensive team, but here she could really be offensive.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is also a player, like when playing for Barcelona now, who is a very dominating team in the Liga F. It's going to be so interesting to see her spider in the Champions League playing for Barcelona compared to the league later on.
Yeah, and I think that if you would have looked at it in Women's Super League last year, it was even more dominant than this. This is still a very good spider, but it was even more. And but yeah, she's still one of the best fullbacks in the league, the best right back. And if we're talking about right backs that could, I would say, could go to Barcelona, we have Ona Battier. If you want to like have the numbers behind this amazing spider, you should look at the episode that we made, the last episode before Christmas, when we talked about her more. But there is one more,
a full episode just about Ona Battier, I'm sure.
But still, there is one more Ona Battier slide in this presentation. So keep watching.
That's a teaser. That's a teaser.
But then I just want to mention Ashley Neville, that I think that like she has a bit of the opposite spider here, but she's still the best in like all the more physical defending metrics, and she's also a very good passer, especially when it comes to making that last pass, if it's a cross or if it's a long ball or if it's a shorter one. And I mean, she's 29. I don't think she has any like caps for the national team, but like she's such a good player. I really wish that
you really wish to see her in the Lioness shirt. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, but she had a very good season. Like this spider is maybe even more impressive than last year, but she had a very good spider. I know when I made the Women's Super League team of the season, like she was just cut out of the team. So she was very good last year as well. So
she is one of the players that have been mentioned. I was going to say, this week actually, because of the fact that Tottenham has signed Bethany England from Chelsea. I'm sure that Ashley Neville will be one of the providers for Bethany England when the league starts again.
Yeah, me too. If we move on to center mids, there are a lot of spiders in this episode. I know that we talked about Lindsay Horan in the last episode, or like when there've been like 4 or 5 games, because she was one of the best players in all of these 5 leagues then, and she's still doing very well.
She's still doing good. Let's
Yeah.
just leave it with that, because this is also not like surprising that we find players in this position in the top teams in the French.
Exactly.
One PSG player and one Lyon player.
Exactly. Well, another youngster here with Oriane, Jean-Francois, 21. And
I can hear that the Duolingo is doing its work, Jesper.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Jesper is doing French in the Duolingo app. I'm doing Spanish, by the way, but I'm just at I think it's 23-day streak, and you've been doing it for every day for a year.
I've been doing it for a long time.
I'm going to put some pressure on you now next time, because now people will know that, so they will demand good French.
But it's good. It's good. I want to practice. My girlfriend has been living in France for several years, so she's really good in French, better than my English. So, I try to practice with her, and I like to visit France as well. So it's nice. But we can only talk more about my French. If we talk about
let's go to German, the German language.
Yeah. We have another Austrian player, like Austria with Sara Sadrasil in Bayern München. Here, progressive playmaker. And Lena Oberdorf. I don't think I need to describe her any more than that.
No, let's just say that she's a very good player and also a young one. And I do think that top teams will fight to get her signature in the future.
Definitely. I mean, we talked about hybrid anchors and player roles in the Erin Cuthbert episode, and you can see here that like she has both the defensive side and she has the offensive side in progressing the ball forward, and that's rare that you're so good in both those areas.
We like Lena Oberdorf. We like Sara Sadrasil as well, though.
Yes.
Just saying. Okay, this is a very interesting slide because obviously they play in the same team, but they also kind of compete against each other to start for Barcelona.
Yeah.
And they have like, I mean, the Spiders are quite similar, I would say, in one way. But obviously when you see them play, you could see that they have different qualities on the pitch for Barcelona.
Yeah, and we should also mention it, I had when I took out the grades, I had a limit of around 5-6 games, but Ingrid Engen, I think she just made it over, so that there are players that have played maybe a bit more, so you have to keep that. I don't remember exactly how much more Kara Walsh had played, but both are doing a very good job, and it's very good for a team like Barcelona to have Ingrid Engen and Kara Walsh to use in this position or play together, or having the rotation, as you mentioned, to have that top class, not only one player but two. And I mean, Ingrid is also a player for the future. She's 24, but she has a long career ahead, and Kara Walsh is as well. So we will get to follow them and a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see how they develop.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see Kara Walsh also in the Champions League later on this spring, in the games where Barcelona will have a tougher opponent from time to time with their playing style. So
exactly, and that's going to be a challenge, and more to that in later episodes. And a lot of players to select here, but I think that when it comes to, we have praised Ona Battier a lot, but I think that also for Manchester United, this season in their success, I think it's important to mention Katie Salem. England has a lot of good players, but she's been really good and in United, and she's been very good at both winning back the ball, but also progressing it, having these hybrid anchor qualities or box-to-box midfielder. And Very impressive.
Yeah, I think she's one of the players, though. Also, I must say that have had massive criticism for her performances, like from fans, and you could see that. But I always thought that people probably might be a bit harsh on her, because I do think that she is a very important team for Manchester United, not only because she's a great football player, but also because she is their captain and the leader on the pitch.
Yeah, I think that the criticism is a bit way like above what she deserves. I really think that she's,
I think so too,
and that's
because
why I think it's interesting to have her in this presentation to is show that she's very important for the team.
yeah, obviously. And then we have a Swiss player in this position as well. So it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
Lia Velti, that's also a good player.
Yeah, very good player. And I mean, when we talked about players in maybe mid teams in Frauen Bundesliga or Italian league, whatever, like Velti came from Frauen Bundesliga from Potsdam like 4 seasons or 5 or something ago. Like, so it's maybe one of the players we've showed today will be like the future Velti or whatever. I don't know if we need to say more about her. Very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, and an important player for Arsenal, I would say.
Yeah. Serie A here. We have Italian national team player Manuela Giuliano, and we talked about Gutia Carciuni in that episode in September as well, because she came from, I think it was, I should remember this, I think it was ahead of this season from Bordeaux to Inter, and she's been really good.
Yeah, that's a good spider. Obviously, but also the fact is that it's interesting because Inter is not. I think if they're top of the league, obviously, but it's nice to see that it's not Juventus or Roma in both these.
Exactly. There are behind the top 2, but yeah, it's nice to have some other players. We move on here to some attacking midfielders / wingers, and it's because like the positions could be a bit different. Some of these players could play more central number 10. Some of these could play more of a forward or trailing forward. Some of these could play more as a attacking winger or inner forward or whatever.
Yeah, I think Diani has been playing like everywhere for
she has
this season so far. So because of the fact that they lack a proper number 9, but she has been doing very well from looking at this. So
yeah, she's doing very well. It's one of the largest spiders in this presentation. Not Ona Battier large, but very large.
I like that. We're gonna have Ona Battier as a reference to all spiders from now on. But that looks like a very interesting winger, though.
Yeah, Kessia Boussi from
Reims. The finishing.
Yeah, she's been very successful in her finishing, like taking care of her chances very well. Also very technical when it comes to dribbling and doing your opponent and carrying the ball. Successful in the last pass to the opponents and so on. So like a very good star winger here. And she could have been in next generation, but I chose to focus on teenagers in that list. She's 21, but I mean,
that's close.
Play for the future.
That's close. Yeah.
If we look at Germany, I don't know if we need much of a presentation of these players.
No,
they're very well known
players also. So this is, but I must say that Linda Dahlman's spider is also very impressive.
And she was one of the 5 highest rated players in all over like these leagues. One of the 5 best, together with Battier and Reynard. And so like she's top.
I must mention though that Svenja Huth is one of my favorite players to watch. I really enjoy watch her play.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we move on to Spain here, we could have almost had Rolfö again, but if you want to listen to Rolfö, you could focus on the episode we made. She's also playing lower down the pitch, so I just realized I mentioned it on the wrong slide, but whatever. We have Claudia Pina here, and then Atenea del Castillo, and both of these girls are also like under 23, 21 and 22. So, and I mean, Claudia Pina in Barcelona, impressive spider.
I think she will be one of Barcelona's greatest players in the future, actually.
Yeah, me too.
She has already showed her qualities. I think it wasn't it against Bayern Munich where she scored that like insane goal, and that was a true team goal from Barcelona, playing out from the back, almost down by the touchline from Sandra Panos and up, and then so a good shot. Just remember that.
And if we want to the Women's Super League, I think there's been a little talk about Frida Manem this season. Another Norwegian on this list. I think it makes a Norwegian lead ahead of Sweden. It feels not the top, but
yeah, I know she's almost a Swede.
She's almost Swede,
but the fact is, we must mention that because this has been a topic on Twitter the recent weeks, because she has put the L dot Manum on the back of her shirt. And her name is actually, we must say this because this is kind of funny, because she says herself that in Linköping, when she played here, when you spoke to her, she said that, okay, I want, no, not probably want, but her name is Frida Leonhardsen Manum.
Yeah.
Or actually Manum. It's we just had to mention that.
Yeah, I think it's funny sometimes when you get to know, when I get to know football players from Norway or Denmark, like through English texts or through like international media, and then when you have their name, like just in Sweden when we have but then you've been like hearing when Holland came or Monum here, like you've been hearing the AA version or AE more, so you kind of forget what their Scandinavian name sounds like.
Exactly.
Although you know, and then you come up with yourself like saying, when you talk to other Swedish people, you say the international name instead. And then I feel
I know it's like, but that's also a very good spider, and the fact is that the eye test versus the spider, I think many people will agree on.
Yeah.
Don't have to like going into a deep discussion about that, because she has been great.
And
but also Lauren Hemp. That's
I had her as the top player in Women's Super League last year. People agreed and disagreed, but like she's still doing like so well considering the stats this season, and like having a different playing style than Frida Monum, of course, and being more of a classic winger. But she's so dominant when it comes to statistics and generating chances.
Obviously one of Manchester City's most important players, and England's as well, from the national teams. But here we also have now this slide is also making my heart warm, because this is also a Swede. Every Swede gets to me a little bit. I like when they do well. I like when all players do well, but Swedes, for obvious reasons. And this is a great player we have in Sweden. I'm very happy. I usually say this about Kosova Raslani, but I'm very happy that she's Swedish.
Yeah, and she's so enjoyable to watch. We have the episode from September when we talked about her more like being this artist profile, and you can see that she's both like good at winning the ball and moving the ball to her teammates and creating chances, and as well as she's good at like scoring and taking care of the chances herself. So there's a lot of different qualities coming with her, which also, you can use her in different positions when you're like creating your 11 on the board and so on. And then we have Michela Satena from Fiorentina, so another player not from Roma or Juventus.
Good carrier and dribbler from the looks of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And now we usually come to now. This is the category where people probably must say that this is one of the most important things in a team, to score goals.
Yeah, and then we go back to the table format, and what we have here is like this list is not maybe necessarily like accurate to if you would look at the Golden Boot, like who's scoring the most goals, because I'm only looking at non-penalty goals here.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Goals not from penalties. And we talked about Diani before. If we look at Maya Garbino, that has a 0.6 non-penalty goals per game, and her expected goals is like half of that. And you can also see that in her shot map here, that she's been very successful in scoring inside the box. And also one thing that really makes her a good finisher, I would say, or like being very sensitive when it comes to finishing, is that like almost all of her shots are on target. I think that's very impressive. Usually shots outside the box are not on target, but she's
she knows where the goal is situated. Yeah.
And we have
that spider is very impressive as well, must say that.
Definitely. 25, I think she is, or 26. So more to come. And we had Bussy that we talked about, and Bourdieu being more of a target striker in Paris. If we move on to the Frauen Bundesliga here, I think it was like, it's a bit interesting here with Janina Ming on 8 goals. And I have her shot map here because she has 3 goals from a distance, and her expected goals numbers is like a quarter to her goal scored. And she's playing as a balancing midfielder as well. So I mean, that's just
this is one of the names that I like to see just pop up in this list, actually.
23-year-old from Freiburg, also young, and you can see from her, you can see on the shot map, but we also have the column here like XG per shot, so it means like what's the XG number on average. And you can see all the other players in the list here, they have a XG number that is inside the box, but she has a number that is like half of theirs. So she will probably not be able to keep it up and have like 16 goals on 4 XG on the end of the season. Who knows? She will probably stagger it a bit, but like it's still like very very impressive.
Let's get back to her at the end of the season to look, because that's
see if she makes the World Cup squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we have Khadija Shaw, and I don't know where she was on all, like your list of best players in the world, and The Guardian made a list, I think, as well. But she's really had a tremendous season.
I think she's finally getting the chance to show herself in Manchester City. And she's a very complete striker, I would say. Really good at holding on to the ball, and often you can see her drop down the pitch to link play as well, and that's she's a very but this is like shots per 90, like 4.6, and that's it's much more than the rest on this list, and not much more if you compare it to Sam Kerr, but like Rachel Daly, that's also because Rachel Daly, she scores goals, so she doesn't have to. The fact is also that Rachel Daly is a player that doesn't need many chances to score.
No, exactly.
She scores when she gets the chance. So
and I mean, Samantha Sam Kerr, like she will probably, I would say she will start scoring like more goals now during the spring season. Like if you look at her expected goal numbers, like she's scored about 2/3 of her expected goal number, and she's otherwise in other tournaments she's known as a good finisher. So I think that like this has been like she's been a bit off, but I'm pretty sure that she will start being more effectful in the spring. Maybe having that top form ready for Champions League. We'll see. Because like when you have a good finisher, I feel more confident to say that they will probably like start scoring more. They usually do. We move on from Sam Kerr and we look at Italy's numbers. And I made this teaser about Tabita Chawinga, and
this is
because I think it's funny
player.
that she played in Sweden like 6 years ago or something.
Yeah, she did. She was actually sold.
I mean, I think she won she scored the most goals in Damallsvenskan when Kvarnsveden was like relegated as well.
She did. And I think she's just loaned out.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. So that's I don't know her contract situation from Wuhan, where she is loaned out from, but will she become a free agent? I mean,
clubs should sign her if they want someone who knows how to score a goal, because this is she has been good for so many years, and and you would like a player like this. So it's going to be interesting to see where she ends up in the future, if she stays perhaps in Italy, or if she will go to Germany or even England.
She could go anywhere. Like very impressive. Like her spider is almost a half circle here when you compare to other players in Serie A. So like it's super impressive. And we have Kosovare Asllani here, having like she's really performing over her expected goals. So we had talked about her before, but it's nice to have her in form.
Yeah, and then just stay there for a while, because one thing I know that you mentioned Elisa Poi. From our episode back, but also the fact is that this is looking at the Chawinga's shot map. She scores from inside the box. This is let's just leave it with that and move on.
She has a shot map of a number 9, like a typical number 9.
Exactly.
Acting in the box, a box striker, and doing it very well. I said we were gonna have one more Una Batlle post, and I put it in here just to show like this visualization that I've like made pretty recent, and it's just like the action value from the machine learning model that is like really how good are you performing when it comes to all action, defensively, offensively, the VAEP that we talked about before, but I renamed it here. And then I have like the average line for action value per 90 for a player in the respective league, and like two players that usually, even if it's a good player, usually a player drops below the line sometimes during the season, because we're all human, and like you have games that are not as good or that you're not as effective.
Let us tell the viewers and listeners now, Jesper, what you called Una Batlle the other day when you showed me this. Miss
over average, did I say that?
Yeah, exactly.
And like, because she has performed over average in every game this season, and like way above. And Wendy Renard, I put her here because she's also one of the players that has a very high percentage of performing over the average in her league. Like she's almost over average in every game as well. And
we must mention though that Una Batlle has been injured and has not been playing every game, but when she has played, she has been doing really good.
Yes. And then to sum up this record long episode, we have the next generation here, a top list that we did in Damallsvenskan as well. And I took the players here born in 2003 or later, and I did a threshold. I filtered out players playing more than 500 minutes, and then I had the action value per 90 that you saw in the last slide that generates like which players are generating most value in defense and in offense when it comes to prevent teams from scoring a goal on you, like you conceding the goal, or for your team to score later. And I think one thing that is interesting is that when I made this list, it was really a lot of players from Frauen Bundesliga and from France. Like we don't have as much of the youngsters from Women's Super League actually that are getting the minutes and being able to qualify on this list. But if we look at the players we have, we will go closer to some of the players that I've chosen to take a closer look. We can mention Monique Ngokki in Reims, for example, that is only 18 years old, played for Cameroon. And Pauline Deutsch, German, in Potsdam, Weltis old club.
You're going to mention, we can mention that the number 2 name on this list has been floating around the net this week, because Chelsea was really keen among other top clubs to have signed her, and I'm not sure if it's official or if it's not yet, but it's been said that Lyon has signed her.
Understandable.
Yeah. Let's see. But yes.
I chose 4 spiders here just to speak about. It's hard to maybe rank and necessarily say that those 10 are the best teenagers in the top leagues, because some may be really good, but they haven't played as much. And that's just one way of ranking players. But if we look at it still, we have a very interesting spider in Katarina Pilic in Essen. German player, like she's over average in almost everything when she's played, and she's not playing in Bayern Munich or Wolfsburg, she's playing in Essen. She's not loaned out from any of those teams either, so she's up for grabs. If we talk about Chiara Beccari, for example, who plays for Como, she's loaned out from Juventus, so we will probably see her play in Juventus next season. And we talked about Fiona Mave Liegre that I asked my girlfriend for pronunciation tips on that name, because I thought it was so hard. But Liegre, she's born in 2005. She's loaned out from PSG. So she will also most certainly play there soon. But PSG have good players, like they have good in those positions. So it's also a hard question. Like, do you sell a player to make it work for her, or what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the contract situation? Of course, I don't know that. And then Salma in Barcelona, Spanish youngster that also has a super impressive spider. Yeah,
for sure. And these spiders, obviously, they play in different position, all of these players. But it's very interesting to see, and I'm sure if people are watching this and listening, pay attention when these players get subbed in, or if they start for their respective clubs the second half of the season.
Exactly. And if I was recruiting for any of the top flight teams in women's football, I would definitely say that Pilic is an interesting player to look at.
For sure. But now we have come to the end of the episode.
Record long. I couldn't stop putting content into this presentation, and I hope you liked it. This was we usually don't do like only spiders almost that I did in this episode, but I thought it was like interesting just to go through players that have stood out, have some conversation, hopefully make it to Twitter and like tell me what you think, or what do you think of these players? Should we dig deeper into any of them in the spring when we make the coming episodes, and so on?
Yes, and we're gonna go into teams, playing styles, and team spiders later on in the spring, and we will also talk about when the transfer window is closed. Then we're going to talk about teams' playing styles compared to what players they have signed, and that's going to be very interesting. We probably will have a guest with us by then.
More coming on that topic.
Yeah, on that topic. But let's leave it for now and say good evening and have a good weekend, Jesper, because in Sweden we have a holiday tomorrow. I'm very happy about that. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So take care and till next time.
Till next time.